Welcome to the India Art Fair and the launch of Rado's latest design masterpiece watches for 2026. Good morning, Adrian. Good morning, Brigitte. Good morning, Mrinalini. Welcome back to the India Art Fair, Adrian. Rado always chooses this movement to unveil its most design-led creations. What makes this platform so meaningful for Rado, and what design philosophy drives what we are presenting today?
You know, as I said, really since decades, creativity is the heartblood of Rado since a long time. And to be in such environment, we are crossing, art lovers, design lovers, and of course we can excite with our beauties and with our artworks on the wrists, with our timepieces. Of course, also people who are really have the affinity to beautiful things, to art, and especially also timeless art. A Rado timepiece is on one side a uniqueness in terms of design, but it's also something very sustainable and long-term thanks to the features of high-tech ceramic. And therefore, this environment, when you put an artwork in your salon, it's something often for the life, for decades. And the same is when we are creating a timepiece for our customers by Rado. And therefore, really, this environment, this field, fits perfectly to the Rado DNA and the Rado identification.
Literally a very perfect canvas to present something like this. Brigitte, the Le Corbusier Foundation safeguards one of the most influential design legacies of our time, the man, the genius, the legend. How does the foundation keep ideas relevant today, and why does this connection with India continue to hold such global significance?
So I will start with India, if you allow me. What is very specific in India for the foundation, first, the Capitol complex is listed on the World Heritage List. So it's a huge recognition of Le Corbusier achievement in India. And another thing, in the Capitol complex creation, Le Corbusier was not only an architect, he was also an artist, a sculptor. He made the tapestries for the High Court. He made the enamel door for the Assembly. And in fact, in Chandigarh, you see all the palette of Le Corbusier creation. Architecture, sculpture, colorist, designer. Also the furniture were designed by him and his cousin Pierre Jadret. So it's a global approach of design, architecture and art. And we are very, very proud of it. So for the legacy of Le Corbusier, in fact, Le Corbusier died without any children. So he created the foundation to promote his heritage, to conserve his buildings, and to be, in fact, the guardian of what he left. And we are very proud of all the collaborations we have today with artists, with fashion designers, because it renews the approach and the vision of Le Corbusier. For instance, just last year, Chanel, the famous brand, I'm sure you all know, organized his winter défilé on the roof terrace of the Cité Radieuse. The Cité Radieuse, which is an iconic building of Le Corbusier, and you can see one watch dedicated to it. And this collaboration with fashion brands, with designers, is very important. Oraito, a French designer, he bought the gymnasium on the roof of the Cité Radieuse, and now it's an art center. So it's very interesting that it's designer artists that contribute to make the heritage still alive. It's not only the foundation. And I think it is, for us, the perfect achievement that, you see, is beyond us, that Le Corbusier legacy is still alive.
That's fantastic to know. There's also something that I learned from you yesterday, that Le Corbusier was actually getting into watch design before his mentor told him to no, stop that, you're going to be an architect. Imagine what we lost, honestly, in the watch world, but what we gained in the architecture world. That's ridiculous.
Yeah.
You know what he said? I don't want to become an architect. I hate architects and architecture. It's true. It was recorded. This professor who was such a great man said, you must devote yourself to your comrades and create a new style in Switzerland. So you will be the cornerstone and an architect.
I'll talk about a legacy. In fact, that brings me to Mrinalini, because we need to get a technical expertise into the mix. As an architect, Le Corbusier's work is foundational. From your perspective, how relevant is contemporary architecture today? And how do its principles increasingly shape the design of objects we live with, especially watches?
I'd like to start by saying that we gained a lot by Corbusier becoming an architect. And he is the legend. I don't think anyone goes through architecture school or study without having a very intimate relationship with Corbusier and his legacy. So I'm glad that we got that part of him. How I'd respond to your question is first by just trying to understand what contemporary really means to us today, right? And I feel that it's been a while since, especially in India, we've been trying to develop a contemporary style in architecture and design, and even art for that matter. And we've struggled between what we think is the past, which is very often translated into a rural vernacular or tradition, and the future, which is very often translated into steel and glass. But it's in the past, I would say, less than a decade, where designers, artists, architects have really started to find their voice and started to develop a contemporary language in the country. I think in any creative field, it's an expression of where you are and of the time that you're in. So contemporary design is relevant, right? It's relevant because it's an expression of where we are at this particular time. Having said that, a lot of people have already mentioned this. People like Corbusier have been timeless. And his work is foundational because he transcends that time. It wasn't a trend. It wasn't something that he did at a point and it's not relevant today. Because he didn't only talk to us and he didn't only offer us structures, he offered systems, he offered logic, he offered intent. And I think that is what has stood the test of time. So Chandigarh was designed, 70 odd years ago? But it still continues to function very well as a contemporary city. Its systems haven't broken down or haven't deteriorated with time. And that's an example. I think it's the intent, and that's where you can translate it back into even objects or like things like watches. It's the intent with which you design something, which makes it most relevant. And I think for me, watches are very similar to buildings, where you're talking about structure, you're talking about logic, you're talking about systems, you're talking about mechanics, but you also have to talk about whether they resonate, whether you hold them very close to your body, do they speak to you? So I think for me, watchmaking, building, architecture, it all kind of rolls into one act, more or less.
There's also a parallel I'll draw right here, and that brings me back to Adrian. Materials, architecture, watches, especially Rado's DNA. I mean, Le Corbusier believed deeply in proportion, structure, and material honesty, values that feel closely aligned with Rado's DNA. How do these architectural principles translate into modern watchmaking? And what makes this collaboration so natural and enduring for Rado?
The message which you have passed that finally also with the architecture of Le Corbusier is timeless. It's something which really I see, because all the buildings on which also we made the watch on, they are really timeless, and they will be even in 100 years really big admirers. And this is bringing back to your question, when we are creating a timepiece, our aim is to create something which is not only for 2-3 years or for 5 years in the life. Our aim is to bring something to the customer which is also timeless, because often a Rado watch is given for a wedding, for an important milestone in the life, for an anniversary. And this is a very emotional moment, and even in 10-20 years you don't want to put away this timepiece. And when you are working with high-tech material like ceramic, you have the guarantee for a timeless beauty. And there again, we match with the philosophy of Le Corbusier that our aim is to do something with a system, with a concept which is durable and which is for long time. And this is definitely one of the reasons that our brand is so appreciated in India, because the Indian customer is ready to spend money, but he wants something timeless and something with real values.
I think we've already mentioned about this pretty much, almost every day when we speak about Rado, that the brand has really ingrained itself into the Indian mindset, into the Indian market as well. Looking at special edition timepieces unveiled today, how do elements like color, proportion, and high-end ceramic help translate Le Corbusier's architectural language into a wearable object?
Le Corbusier was courageous in terms of design and also in terms of color combination. And today we see that this is timeless. And the same, we are also, our designers are heavily inspired also from the attitude how Le Corbusier is thinking about shapes, is thinking about colors. And therefore also we have worked here with the white matte ceramic, with the black matte ceramic, with the grey matte ceramic, also colors who are really linked with these buildings, and on the other side also color combinations which fits and who are in the color philosophy of Le Corbusier. And therefore, as I heard, we have lost an important person in the watch industry, and the architecture have gained this person, but basically both fields and both genius merged again together since we have started the collaboration with the foundation, because our designers and our watchmakers and our engineers, they get still inspired from this really very creative and of course very powerful philosophy and of course courageous design ambition and color ambition of Le Corbusier.
Continuing on that chain of thought, from an art and design perspective, what elevates a watch from a functional object to a collectible piece of design, something iconic?
I think every object is functional, and if it's not, that's a debatable topic, because people say art is objects that are not functional, but we leave that aside for a minute. But I think what translates something or transforms something from a functional object to a collectible is the story behind it and the intent. And what to me is interesting is that it comes from both ends, right? So the watchmaker needs to make something with intent. It's not about color being applied, it's not lip service, it's not color being applied because it's trending, it's not using material because that's what's available, it's not about the size which just fits. What is the intent behind each of these elements, right? The design of it. Why is it designed a certain way? How does it really feel on your wrist? How does it feel when you touch it? The stories that make the product or make the object, if those can be led by intent and there's a narrative to it, I think that's what makes it collectible from the maker's side. And I think from the consumer side, it's the story that you use it or consume it or you hold it close to you. It could be a beautiful piece of furniture. I could have a chair and it does the job. I can sit on it. I can put it around a dining table. I can have 6 people sit on it. But until it really has a story to tell, until it resonates with me, I'll never appreciate it for what it is. I'll never appreciate the design. And I think that goes with every object, right? Like you want to collect objects that resonate with you, that can speak with you, that you want to hold close to you, especially watches. You're wearing them. It's an expression of who you are. It's an expression of your own style, of your being. And that becomes very personal. So it's more than just a function of the object. It's the story that the object tells you, and it's a story that you want to tell through the object. For me, that becomes a collectible.
Excellent perspective from the consumer side, because for me personally, and watch collectors around the world will kind of resonate with what I'm about to say. For me, watchmaking is the perfect blend of art and technology. And I mean, if this collaboration, if these 3 pieces are not the prime example of something, what I just said, then I don't know what is. And just to round this discussion out, Brigitte, I mean, as we look ahead, where is this collaboration headed? Can we expect more curated expressions of Le Corbusier's legacy through watchmaking? And how do you both, I'll come to you as well, Adrian, on this, and how do you both ensure that such collaborations remain culturally relevant for newer generations?
Oh, I will quote Le Corbusier. He said, modernity, it is not fashion, it is a state of mind. And I think it's the most important message. It is this state of mind which will remain relevant, which still remains relevant. And I'm the first surprised when I see young designers from Korea, from China, coming to visit the foundation. I say, wow, but there is something relevant, and it's kind of mystery. What works, what doesn't work, it's the mystery of art, of architecture, of what speaks to you, and it's a state of mind.
You know, I'm since decades a great fan of watches, even from my childhood, and therefore basically it's the statement of the design, it's also the statement of the uniqueness which is attracting me personally. And the same is when I'm looking the art here on the Indian Art Fair, it's in the end the first personal impression about an object. And what I like personally, and often also our customers are like, the uniqueness, by basically to have a known message, not something which is finally copied from somebody else, really a message with a clear meaning. And therefore taste is individual, but basically a style like Rado have must be unique and based on the roots. And therefore we have very modern designs, but our designs are known to shape the future. That will mean when we take, for instance, the Anatome collection. The Anatome collection was very, very futuristic in 1983 when it was launched. And even today, 40 years ago, when you show this collection to young customers, very futuristic, very modern. That will mean, as you said, it's state of art. And therefore, I believe the mindset of Le Corbusier and the mindset of our designers and our engineers fits greatly, and fits also on my personal taste as not a brand CEO, as in the end a customer for a premium watch.
We've explored how architecture, art and watchmaking converge through design. I'd now like to open up the discussion to the audience. If you have any questions for the panelists.
My question is for Adrian. How critical is material innovation, such as high-tech ceramic, in defining modern-day luxury for today's design-conscious consumer?
The creation of high-tech ceramic, it's very, very critical, because otherwise a lot of brands would do. You know, high-tech ceramic is a material, it's the most noble material in the production of watches, because it's light, it's wearer-friendly, it's full scratch resistant, and it has an aesthetic design and an aesthetic feeling which is really timeless and unique. But to create this high-tech ceramic, a few of you were already in our factory in Switzerland, and to do this, it's really an artwork which we have developed for decades, and therefore today we can say we are really the leader in the production of high-tech ceramic, thanks to our innovation spirit and thanks to our attitude to always push the boundaries on the limit. But you need on first ones to have the right alloy of the raw material, after the sinter ovens, also the injection moldings. It's a whole procedure which needs every watch weeks and weeks. And therefore you cannot just jump in this field. You need really to have an experience and to be ready also to make years of investments and also competence in order to be capable to use this material. So high-tech ceramic, it's definitely something which on which it's one of the key assets and strengths of our brand.
This is a legendary collaboration, and how do you what are the challenges that can come in bringing such big and legendary ideas of Le Corbusier to actual world of wristwatches? Like, how do you distill those things and it still sort of makes sense?
When you have a collaboration, this collaboration must fit together. Because just to have a collaboration, because Le Corbusier, it's a star in the architecture from the last century, it may make only sense when this philosophy fits together. And as we have here this evening, or this afternoon, or this morning, we have seen that basically the philosophy of Le Corbusier to make pioneering shapes, when you see Cité les Radieuses, when you see Carpeted Center, when you see also Chandigarh, these designs of architecture were at the time very futuristic, but they are still very, timeless today. And the philosophy of designs and the philosophy of color combination is exactly the DNA of Rado since decades. Since decades we are the master of design, the master of material, and therefore it makes really sense that such collaboration is finally also celebrated on places where we have people who likes art, who like colors. When I see the artworks here on these art expositions, I see the colorful silks, as we see this in Le Corbusier polychromy, as you see this also in the different products of Rado. And therefore really this collaboration, it's true, it makes sense, and is reliable, and basically also for the audience very, very emotional.
Le Corbusier's work was radical in its time. How do you ensure that translating his legacy into contemporary products remains authentic and not merely symbolic?
First, we have a very strong dialogue with companies that are bringing Le Corbusier heritage living in their production. For instance, with Rado, we discussed a lot for the choices made, for the buildings that would be evocated. In fact, it's not a matter of reproducing, it's a matter of spirit, you see. Le Corbusier used to say architecture is for emotion, and we are not like guardians, very controlling strictly. Le Corbusier was always reinventing itself. He changed styles so many times in his life. So we try to find the best match between, you see, companies or designers that share the spirit of innovation, of timeless design, and that's how we collaborate. It's not strictly reproduction, and we would hate it. We like the idea of inspiration, to be inspired by.
The facade of the building from the dial is very beautifully created. Could we get some insight on it?
It was important for us to reflect in a very creative and also symbolic way the structure of the facade. And therefore we have tried with several base materials on the dials. So the easiest way would be to do it on a brass dial. But basically we saw that the outcome is not at all on the level as we have expected. So therefore Le Corbusier was somebody who was only happy with the top design and finishings, and as well our designers. And therefore we have tried on a ceramic tile, which is a big challenge, but we did a laser engraving on these ceramic tiles, and there we found really also the structure of these facades in a really authentic ceramic way, in an authentic also appropriate way, and therefore really this fits also to the philosophy of Rado and of Le Corbusier, to not go the easiest way, to go the most challenging way in order to have the biggest additional value for the wearer who is looking on his watch regularly and is enjoying on the beautiful structure of Le Cité Radieuse or the beautiful buildings from Chandigarh.
We've been talking and going on and on about materials, ceramics, whatnot. How important are materials to architecture? I mean, the science behind the materials, and then to make products that last eternally. It's rigorous, isn't it?
That's tricky because without materials you can't have architecture, right? Of course, materials are important, but I think what is critical is how you use the materials. And you know, we've all been talking about how that's done in watches and especially in this collection. But you both have mentioned innovation. I think innovation is key, right, in anything that we do, and especially with materials, and especially in a time that we live today. Sustainability is important, we all know that, but sustainability also has different shades of it and different perspectives. So is it about something that's timeless, something that lasts longer? That translates to architecture as well, right? So we have to be conscious of what kind of material we're using, how we are using it, what is the lifespan of it, is it a cyclical, you know, economy for that material, what happens once it's not in use? These are all very pertinent questions, and I think they transcend the scale of object that you're creating, whether it's a large building or a precise piece of timeware. So, I mean, in a short answer, it's critical.
Well, thank you for that. And just my last question for Adrian right now. Adrian, Rado is celebrating 40 years of high-tech ceramic in 2026. What do we have in store?
Yes, it's without a doubt very important happening. It's a milestone because 1986 we were the first brand to have started to launch collections in high-tech ceramic, and we have foreseen to launch a product linked with this happening, and it will be the integral anniversary edition. So let's stay tuned and let's surprise you. The big event will be in Switzerland in April, and we are looking forward for celebrating this very important anniversary and this very important milestone in the Rado history.
Fantastic. So thank you for reminding us that, you know, great design is not bound by scale but by ideas. Thank you, Adrian. Thank you, Brigitte. Thank you, Mrinalini, for sharing your invaluable perspectives and for bringing to life the powerful dialogue between architecture, design, and watchmaking. We also extend our sincere thanks to the India Art Fair and to all our distinguished guests for being a part of this conversation. Thank you, and enjoy the refreshments, enjoy the watches outside, and well, have a great time.